Hey everyone, it's Phil Kesler. We're here today to talk about the 7 most frequently asked questions when hiring a personal injury lawyer. The first question we often get is, do I have a case? I hear that all the time. The only true way to find out if you have a case is to sit down with an experienced personal injury lawyer in the jurisdiction in which the case will be brought. Here at MacCloskey Kesler, the firm has been around for over 2 decades in the Rockford area, serving people all over Illinois. And we've handled all types of cases. I mean, we often talk about some of the different ways, quite honestly, some of the strange ways that people come to be injured. And we've handled them all. There's only so many ways a car crash can happen. I've seen all types of dog bites and animal attacks. We've seen unknown amounts of slip and falls and to ways that people become injured, and all different types of work injuries. Sitting down with a personal injury attorney here at MacCloskey Kesler doesn't cost you a penny. So it's important to get to see a personal injury attorney as soon as possible, because time limits are very tight on these cases, and waiting generally does not help your case. It means that the evidence will disappear. It means that it's harder to get witnesses. And if you do find the witnesses, they often don't have as good a memory. So if you really want to know whether you have a case or not, you need to call an attorney. And I believe calling an attorney here at MacCloskey Kesler will answer those questions and let you find out if you do in fact have a case. The second question we often hear is, what do I need to bring to the consultation? Here's what we tell people. Our staff is instructed when someone sets a consultation to tell them to bring their health insurance card, their car insurance card if it's a car accident. If it's a work injury or really any type of injury, your work pay stub is very helpful to try to figure out lost wages. Any medical records that you've been given. In a car crash, we ask you to bring the accident report. If it's a slip and fall or if it's a work injury, a lot of times there's an incident report that's been filled out. Really anything that you believe that would be important to your case, any papers that you've been given, bring them. My honest theory is I would rather have 5 of the same documents than not have the document at all. So bring in everything you have related to the case, and also bring with you your health insurance card, your car insurance information, and any pay stubs you have. And from there, we'll take copies and we'll order as much as we can. The last thing that we really need are medical bills. Medical bills are strange in the fact that once they're paid, it's not always a priority of the biller to get us a copy, because quite frankly, they got paid. So if you have any medical bills, you want to keep them and bring them with you to the consultation. From there, we'll get on your case and we'll answer your questions. The next question I often hear is, how much is my case worth? It's a pretty frequent question. And I always answer people's question by simply saying this. If you've ever been around an appraisal of a car or an appraisal of any other item, the value of a car, especially say a 5 or 10-year-old car, it varies greatly. It varies in the maintenance you've done of the car, the condition of the car, prior crashes, all types of things. And the reality is, the reason that insurance companies to this day, with all the technology they have, still send out adjusters to look at cars is because you have to physically look at the car to give a value. And what I tell people is, with a case, it's no different. To really give an opinion of a case, you have to look at the case. And that means you have to get the medical records, the medical bills, you have to get the crash report in a car crash or other incident information that you can find, because all of those things will affect the value of the case. And then an experienced personal injury lawyer in the jurisdiction in which the case is going to be tried or settled has to look at all that information, and based on his or her prior experience with cases, they have to formulate an opinion. In workers' comp, we have a schedule that helps guide us, but there's still some arguments to be made. In personal injury and car crashes, slip and falls, it comes down to a jury. And so really it's a range. It's a range of what a jury will do. And I tell people a lot of the times is simply this. I can look at an offer and tell you it's a good offer or a bad offer, but putting an exact dollar down to the penny, there's no one that can do that. Insurance companies try to do that with computers, and quite frankly, they're always wrong. And my biggest advice to people is, hire an attorney, a personal injury attorney that you trust, and listen to what they have to say. And if any attorney is telling you, prior to looking at the information, prior to looking at that car, if they're able to give you an opinion of the exact value or tell you your case is worth a lot of money without even looking at it, you need to run away from that person, because that is just not an honest opinion. It's just an attempt to get your case. The next question we often are asked is, how long will it take for my case to settle? The first answer to that question is it depends, right? Like all attorneys, we say it depends, but no one really wants to hear that answer. The simplest way to answer that is it really depends in large part on your treatment. And I always encourage people to get full and adequate treatment. And what I mean by that is that ultimately if the case goes to a jury is going to see through whether you're being honest or not. And that can happen two ways. One, it's you overtreat. You treat too much just for the sake of treating. I never encourage that. The second thing that I see all too often is no one wants to be hurt in a car crash. No one gets in a car crash and hopes to be hurt. So a lot of people get to a point they start feeling better and they stop treating. And that oftentimes can be a big mistake. They end their physical therapy, they stop seeing their chiropractor because they start feeling better. What I often see is that a couple months go by and they can start to have the same problems again because they never fully treated for the injury. And that's a big deal. What happens is the insurance company then says, well, there's a gap in your treatment, and therefore we're not going to pay after you stop treating the first time. So I always encourage people to do the full treatment plan, listen to your doctors, and when you get to the point that your doctor believes you're done treating and you feel better, then to end treatment. But the thing for us is that we can't settle a case until you're done treating. So in large part, the time it takes to settle a case depends on how long you treat. And the other part that affects the case, of course, is what is going to happen with the insurance company and how they're going to handle the case. And if it gets litigated, how long is the case going to take to litigate? How the judge is going to monitor the case and push the case along. It's our job as a plaintiff's attorney to push the case, but we work within its systems. Workers' comp cases average about 1.5 years with our office. Personal injury cases vary. We attempt to settle every case, and we usually can do that in 3 to 6 months after treatment's ended. We can get an offer, and whether it's a fair offer or not will dictate how long it takes from there. The next question I often get is, what do I do in a car accident? And the answer to that is simple. Get as much information as you possibly can at the scene and seek medical treatment if you're injured as soon as possible. And what I mean by that in this day and age of camera phones is get as much information of witnesses, of the photos of the cars and the scene, and to gather as much possible information about the other driver and witnesses as you possibly can. Phone numbers of witnesses, that's huge. We often hear, well, there was this middle-aged lady and she was really nice and she might have been a nurse, but I don't know her name and I don't have her phone number. That is crucial. Independent witnesses are crucial to these cases. The other thing is that, no one wants to be hurt in these cases. No one ever wants to be hurt in a car crash. Take the ambulance. If you're hurt, take the ambulance. I can't say that enough. And if you don't want to take the ambulance, oftentimes because of financial concerns, go to immediate care or the emergency room as soon as you leave that scene. Your number one priority should be making sure you treat for your injuries. And then finally, I would encourage you to speak to the police officer and make sure that your side of the story appears in the crash report. The next question I often get is what do I do if I'm hurt in a work injury, hurt at work? This is kind of similar to the last question. In a work setting, it's a little different. In a work setting, the rule of getting medical treatment as soon as possible, that still definitely applies. And it's very important. But it's just a little different how you go about it. You need to report it to your supervisor or whatever your work rules require as soon as possible. I mean literally as soon as it happens. We often deal with cases where people are let go because they didn't follow company protocol. They went home and they were hoping to get better, and they come back in the next morning and they're having problems. Don't do that. Report it right away. The other thing is that repetitive injuries, carpal tunnel, back injuries, neck injuries, happen over time. And then we hear the employer say, well, this didn't happen at work, this happened somewhere else. As soon as you're having those problems, make sure you report it and get medical treatment. Now, in workman's comp, you are allowed one doctor of your choice, so you can, in fact, go to your own doctor. I encourage people to usually start with their family doctor. The reason I say that is because of the family doctor can then refer you to, how many ever doctors you need to refer to, because the rules require that you get referrals. You also can be seen by the company doctor, and that does not count against you. In workers' comp, it's actually required by law that you report the injury in a timely fashion. And you want to do that as soon as possible because that can actually affect your rights. You can do so orally, but you also may be required to provide a written statement. And if you're required to do so, it's never a bad idea to seek legal counsel. So that's what you do in a work injury. But again, number one, make sure that you get treatment and appropriate, adequate treatment if you're hurt. The last question is this: how do I pick a personal injury lawyer? And I'm going to say this: why do I pick MacCloskey Kesler? I personally believe we are by far the best personal injury firm here in Northern Illinois. And without a doubt, if you're looking for an injury lawyer, you should call our firm. But here's why. Our firm is different. Our firm, one of the things that I'm so proud of is that the vast majority of our cases come from word-of-mouth referrals. And why I'm proud of that is because it means to me that we did something very well the last case. I always talk about with our staff often that we're never worried about getting a case. We're worried about getting the next case. And what I mean by that is that we want to provide as much service and help that person as much as we possibly can. So when they're looking for an attorney in 5, 10, 20 years from now, without a doubt, they know where to call. And there's not a question in their mind of who to call. And the reason that I believe our firm is different is what Kim started this firm. He started with the idea that he went through this type of situation. His family hired a personal injury lawyer, and I don't know how good of an experience it was. And he'll tell you that he started this firm with the idea that he wanted to handle cases in a manner in which he wanted his own case handled. And I think that's what sets us apart. We have the personal experience, and we truly care about these cases. There are a lot of different attorneys doing this type of work. And I don't think any firm understands what your family or you are going through in a case better than ours. You will meet not with an investigator or some brand new attorney and blow a bunch of smoke at you, tell how great your case is, assign some papers so they can get a hold of the case. You won't have someone railroad an offer down your throat and tell you that this is what you got to do. You're going to sit down with myself, one of the partners, owners of this firm, or Kim, and talk about your case. And if we think we can help you, we'll tell you that. And occasionally, if we think that you can settle your case on your own, we'll tell you that too. So, that happens every day in this firm. It's not a huge injury case, and its facts are pretty simple, and we'll walk you through it. But if it's more complex or we're concerned about the insurance company involved, we'll tell you that too. We'll tell you, hey, you need a personal injury lawyer. So that's why you hire our firm. And frankly, you hire our firm because we're the best firm. And we've gotten results. We've recovered tens of millions of dollars for people right here in the Rockford area, not all over the country. We're not combining settlements from 15 different offices spread across Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana. No, we're talking about settlements that are right here in Rockford, and I think that's really important.